Welcome to a story that takes you deep into the heart of the Amazon, where the bond between a girl and an elephant becomes a symbol of love, legacy, and the eternal spirit of nature. This is Beneath the Ceiba Tree, a timeless tale of loyalty, love, and the jungle's secrets. Let's dive in. In the emerald heart of the Amazon, where mist clung to the canopy like whispered secrets, and the river flowed with ancient memory, there stood a mighty Ceiba tree, its roots thick and sprawling, its trunk etched with the marks of time. To the villagers of Puerto Lanza, it was more than just a tree. It was a monument, a witness, and a keeper of stories that pulsed with the breath of the forest. And beneath that tree, a girl named Nayeli first met the elephant that would change her life. She was only 6 years old then, barefoot, wild-haired, and curious beyond her years. Her laughter danced through the ferns like sunlight through the leaves. Her mother, Amara, often called her La Hija del Bosque, the daughter of the forest. Even among the villagers who lived close to nature, Nayeli had a way of listening to the trees, of knowing when the river would rise, of finding orphan chicks before they fell from their nests. It was on one of those sticky, storm-whispering afternoons when she found him. Tangled in the reeds near the riverbank, barely breathing, was a calf. But not just any animal, a baby elephant. His ear was torn, his eyes dulled by pain and fear, and his leg dragged limply in the mud. Nayeli dropped to her knees beside him, the breath in her chest catching. "Don't be scared," she whispered, voice trembling. "I'm Nayeli." The elephant's gaze flickered to her. Then, as if some deep, unspoken thread had been strung between them, he didn't run. He didn't cry. He just stayed. She called him Tambo, a name from her grandfather's tongue, meaning place of rest. And for years, that's what they were to each other. The villagers had never seen anything like it, an elephant, so far from its usual range, alone in the thick arms of the Amazon. The elders whispered theories that it had escaped from a traveling caravan upriver, or that it was a gift from the gods. But none of them dared approach the creature, not even the bravest fishermen or the shamans, who spoke to the jungle spirits in dream. Only Nayeli, with her sun-browned skin and tangle of river-drenched curls, approached him without fear, and only to her did he respond. Day after day, she brought him water in coconut shells and mashed fruits in banana leaves. She sang lullabies her mother had once hummed while grinding corn. She wove vines into a small crown and placed it gently on his head. And slowly, Tambo healed. His eyes regained their light. His wounds became scars, and he began to follow her like a shadow made of storm and strength. By the time she turned 10, the two were inseparable. At dawn, they bathed together in the shallows of the river. At midday, they napped in the cool hush beneath the Ceiba tree. And at dusk, when the village came alive with fireflies and drums, Nayeli would ride upon Tambo's back, her feet barely brushing his shoulders, her arms open wide as though trying to fly. It was magic, the kind only the jungle knew how to keep. And as she grew, the world around her began to change. When Nayeli was 16, the men from the city came. They arrived with machines that growled like beasts and maps that didn't show the sacred paths. They offered money for trees and land, promises of clinics and paved roads. But Nayeli's mother, Amara, who had taken over as village leader after her father passed, stood firm. "This forest is not ours to sell," she told them, voice steady, hands folded. "It is alive, and it remembers. Still, they came, quietly, forcefully, clearing patches near the riverbank, setting up metal markers in the soil like flags of conquest. The jungle grew restless. Howler monkeys screamed deeper into the trees. Birds vanished from their usual nests, and the river began to rise without warning. One night, the Ceiba tree wept sap like blood. That was the night Nayeli had the dream. She was standing in a field of stars, the jungle hushed and silver-lit. Tambo was there, but older, his tusks long, and his eyes wise with sorrow. He knelt before her, and when she reached to touch him, he vanished, becoming a trail of fireflies that scattered into the sky. She awoke gasping, her chest tight. "Tambo," she whispered, rushing into the dark. She found him by the river, ears tilted toward the wind. A sound, distant, terrible, rumbled from the west. Trees crashing, the whine of machines, and suddenly she knew. They were coming. Tonight. Nayeli ran, not to warn the village, not to plead with the men. She ran to the Ceiba tree, the one place the jungle still kept safe. She climbed Tambo's back, pressing her face against his shoulder, whispering prayers and memories as he moved beneath the moonlight, sure-footed and silent. Together, they reached the base of the tree. The clearing there was lit in silver, the roots sprawling like a giant's embrace. "This is where we wait," she said, breathless. "If they come, they'll see us. They'll know what we're protecting." But the men did not stop. They reached the outer edge of the clearing, headlights sweeping the trees. One of them, young, with a scarf around his mouth, raised his walkie-talkie and spoke. Then he saw them, a girl on the back of an elephant, framed by the ancient Ceiba, the air thick with mist and memory. He lowered the radio, and slowly, silently, they turned back. Years passed, the machines never returned. Word spread of the forest guardian and her elephant, of the girl who stood beneath the oldest tree and whispered its name aloud. Nayeli grew into a woman. She taught children the names of birds, how to read the moss on tree bark, how to plant with the river's rhythm. Tambo aged with her. His steps grew slower, his eyes dimmer. But every morning he waited beneath the Ceiba tree, and every evening she brought him his favorite fruit, wild mangoes softened in the sun. One morning she found him still, lying beneath the roots, breathing slowly, watching the light filter through the canopy. She knelt beside him, resting her forehead to his. "It's okay," she whispered. "I'm here." Tambo let out one final breath, warm and gentle as the wind that carried the jungle's song. Then he closed his eyes and did not open them again. Nayeli buried him where he lay, his great body embraced by the roots of the Ceiba. The villagers came, bringing flowers and feathers, leaving tokens of love and memory. The children carved his likeness into the tree's trunk, their hands trembling with reverence. And every year, on the day of his passing, they gathered beneath the tree to tell his story, of a girl and an elephant, of love that needed no words, of a bond that outlived time. Years turned like pages in a book only the forest could read. Nayeli, now silver-haired and gentle-eyed, walked slower than she once had, her steps echoing those of a friend long gone. But every morning, she still made her way to the Ceiba tree, leaning against its thick roots, closing her eyes as the forest breathed around her. Children from the village often joined her, sitting in a circle while she told the old stories, not with grand gestures or loud declarations, but with a voice like the river in the morning, quiet, certain, full of truth. Tambo, she would say, was more than an elephant. He was a heartbeat, a promise, a home-won little girl, no more than 7, with hair tied in colorful beads, always sat the closest. Her name was Lila. She never interrupted. She simply listened, eyes wide, as if trying to see Tambo in the rustle of the leaves. One dawn, after a long rain, the villagers found Nayeli sitting beneath the Ceiba tree, her hand resting on the carved shape of an elephant in the bark. Her eyes were closed. Her face was peaceful. She had joined the forest she loved. They buried her beside Tambo, beneath the wide-reaching arms of the Ceiba, a resting place for the two who had loved each other without question, who had stood against the machines, who had reminded the world that love, in its purest form, is quiet, eternal, and wild. Years later, Lila returned, grown and strong, leading a group of children to the tree. She placed her palm on the trunk where Nayeli's name was carved beneath Tambo's. "Here," she said softly, "is where love still lives." A breeze stirred the canopy. Somewhere, a distant trumpet echoed across the forest, and in that moment, every child felt it, not just the story, but the presence of a girl and her elephant, of the tree that remembered, and the jungle that never forgets. Thank you for watching. If Nayeli and Tambo's story touched your heart, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more beautiful tales from the wild. Subscribe for more stories of love, nature, and wildlife. Until next time, remember, the jungle never forgets.